What's up, guys? Let me fix that. Let's make a incel facial expression real quick. All right, like a zombie, baby. Go over that. So I was a loser in high school. I had two friends, one of which who was my World of Warcraft partner, and another one who was from chess club, which I was champion of. And throughout high school, I would hear stories of people hooking up, of the girl I had a crush on dating someone else, and I always felt like an outcast. I was an outcast. I was not part of the cool kids. I was not part of any real social circle. My best friend was a guy who would sit behind a truck in the parking lot and read books by himself in the shadow of the truck. That was my friend. So that's who I was. And then I didn't get a single date throughout all of high school. Not one date. There was one time when I was sitting across the table from my crush, from Ashley. Of course, it's always Ashley, right? I was sitting across the table from Ashley, and she said, "Yeah, Avery, he's all right. He's not bad looking, but he's just not really a man. He's not really a man. He's just like a little boy." And I mean, I'm 16. I mean, you're not really supposed to be a man, but I really took that hard. When I heard that, I felt like, yeah, I'm not attractive to girls. I just don't have it. I'm just lacking something. They just don't like me. And I cried after I heard that. Embarrassingly enough, I cried a lot. I felt like shit for weeks because this was a girl I was spending so much time with. I thought, I was going to earn enough friendship points and finally be able to cash out and get a date with her, but that never happened. And so for the next couple of years, I went without any dates, any success with women, being a social outcast. And then it got far worse because when I was 18, my father died suddenly. He died and we didn't know why. He was found dead. So no one knew what happened. It was presumed it was a heart attack, something like that. And after my father died, then I became more of a social outcast and I became numb. I became cold. I just didn't feel any emotions for months. And after 3 or 4 months, this culminated into a panic attack. I had my first panic attack where I felt like I was having a heart attack. To describe how intense it was, the best thing I can say is that my left arm felt completely numb and tingling, and I thought that was something to do with having a heart attack. And then I was dizzy, I was lightheaded, and I had this sense that I was about to die. Just this feeling that I'm about to die if I don't do something. So I walked to my computer to check my symptoms, and instead of being able to walk, I had to crawl because I couldn't. I mean, I'm sure I literally could walk, but I was so anxious that I couldn't even walk. I couldn't even walk to the computer to check my anxiety symptoms. So I had a panic attack. I went into my mom's room after looking at my symptoms, and they did sound a lot like a heart attack. It just so happens panic attack and heart attack, the symptoms are a lot the same, right? Dizziness, lightheadedness, all these symptoms are not that different. And my mom's like, "Oh, that sounds like a panic attack. You're fine." And I'm like, "I'm not fine. I'm dying." And so she took me to a hospital. They gave me all the tests and they said, "It's anxiety." And then from that day onward, I had extreme anxiety for years. Social anxiety, general anxiety, and panic disorder. I was diagnosed. And it was so bad, I could barely even go to school, right? I could barely even go to college. I failed my first semester. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't do anything. And this bled into my social life. So I was already anxious and I was already awkward and I was already an outcast. But now I was not only an outcast, but just the thought of talking to a girl. One day I went to the mall to try and I had a panic attack and I almost called the ambulance. I actually did call the ambulance later because I thought I was dying. That's how bad some of my anxiety attacks were. I said my last words to my own mother saying, like, it's not her fault. I want you to be happy, that kind of thing. So what happened is my anxiety became intense. Like my life in general, it's always an 8 out of 10 in anxiety or higher. Like it's always there. I couldn't enjoy anything. I couldn't enjoy, like, even just here's how crazy it was. Like I would watch an episode of The Office. There was one episode where Kevin has a skin cancer scare. And just hearing about the idea of him having skin cancer gave me crippling anxiety because I thought, oh, maybe I have skin. It didn't make any sense. But even that would just trigger an anxiety attack, just seeing that on a TV show. So constant anxiety, couldn't get a date, couldn't approach women. I tried, but I had an anxiety attack. And I was completely out of control my entire life. So that's who I was at the age of 19. Then there was one girl in one of my classes who just really seemed to like me. I could tell, even though I was pretty socially, you're not allowed to say that word, but let's say idiotic to not get demonetized. But socially idiotic, that's probably cancelable too. But I was really socially unaware. But this one girl, amazing body. She was actually quite attractive. Not the smartest tool in the shed, but I didn't care because I couldn't get anything. So I ended up getting a date with her. She asked me out and I ended up getting a date. And then eventually with her, I lost my virginity. But then when we broke up a couple months later, because she was insufferable, like couldn't be around her at all, I settled for her because that's literally all I could get. She was so annoying. And then I was still an outcast. I was still didn't have many friends. I was still super awkward. And I got lucky this one time with this one girl, but it didn't repeat itself. Right. I downloaded dating apps, couldn't get any success from there. Dating apps back then, it was like Plenty of Fish. This is 12 years ago or something. So I tried dating apps, couldn't get success there. I tried going out to approach in college when I was, I think, 19. This was 19. I went out with a friend who I met on a pickup forum. And me and this guy, we went out to approach girls on campus. And we went around for about 2 hours and didn't talk to a single girl. That one too hot. That one not hot enough. That one looks like she's in a hurry. That one, her boyfriend's probably about to come talk to her. That one, she looks bitchy. That one probably has STDs. So constant excuses. Couldn't talk to a single girl for 2 hours. And then what we did is we went to a convenience store and he got us some Four Locos because he was 21. And Four Locos, if you don't know, they're 12% alcohol and they also had caffeine. So they would give you, double the effect. They actually got banned from the caffeine, but 12% alcohol, 24 ounces, that's the equivalent of 6 beers. So we each downed one of these really fast and we got wasted. And then we went back and another 2 hours, still couldn't approach even with the liquid courage. Still couldn't do it. So I tried for hours, but couldn't approach a single girl. He managed to approach a really fat girl and she asked him for his number and that was it. And after that, we felt so deflated, so demoralized that we didn't try again. I just thought, all right, pick up, cold approach. It's not for me. I don't have what it takes. I'm not going to succeed at this. So let me just give up. Basically, let me meet a girl in a class or something. Hopefully I'll get lucky. And, occasionally over the next couple of years, I would get a date from a girl from class. And I would not make a move and she would friend zone me. That's what would happen, right? I would fail on the date. I got a dog pat more often than I got a make out. There was one girl, I got flowers for her. I literally got flowers and I was like, I just wanted to give you these. And she said, oh, thank you. That's so sweet. It's a symbol of our friendship. And then dog pat on the back. And that was devastating. There was one girl who she was really into me. And I worked at a fast food restaurant, happened to have 2 hot girls there. One of them asked me out and we went on like 5 dates. I was nervous to make a move. I was a bitch, just totally flumbled. I flumbled that word. That's like double meaning there. I floundered, fumbled, if you will. And one day, she ended up going back to my place and we gave each other massages over each other's entire bodies, entire body massages. And it was clearly on. But I told myself in my head, all right, if she leans in to kiss me, then she's into me, then I'll go for the close, then I'll make a move. And of course she didn't, because women rarely will. And then after the massage, she was like, okay, well, that was cool. That wasn't what I was expecting. And I never saw her again. I was just too much of a bitch to make a move. Excuse me. So that was who I was. And then when I was 21, I tried to go to the bars and I failed gloriously. I knew all the mystery method material, but I couldn't approach a single girl. I still could not approach. That was my big sticking point. I had crippling anxiety. Like I said, I literally had panic attacks and I couldn't do an approach, but I was so desperate that I was willing to try, right? I was so desperate to have some kind of intimacy, to get a girlfriend. I didn't even care if she was like that attractive at this point. I just wanted a girlfriend, really, just not, a troll was pretty much my standards. Like they shouldn't look like they're from Mordor. And if I could get past that, I'd be happy. And one day, after failing several times, there were two guys in front of me at the bar, and they were talking about pickup terminology that I'd heard from the mystery method or something like that. And they seemed really cool. So I introduced myself and I was like, "Are you guys, you're spitting game?" And they said, "Yes, mate." That's my British accent. British accent. "Yes, mate. Would you like to go hunt some birds?" If anyone's British here, I'm sorry about the accent. "Would you like to go bird hunting?" Something like that. And this guy was very charismatic, very outgoing. The best comparison would be Russell Brand. He was a lot like Russell Brand in terms of his personality, very excited with everything he said, and girls loved him. He just had really, really good game. Girls would follow him from bar to bar like ducks following the mother duck. They would just follow him in rapture. And even attractive girls that I couldn't get would just be following him, and he'd be like, "Nah, she's an 8 bloke." Now it's a Scottish accent for some reason, but she's an 8. She's an 8. I don't fuck with 8s. Anyway, so that was his attitude. And when I met him, he approached. He's like, "Why don't you do one?" And I was like, I hadn't done a single approach up to this point, but just having this other guy who I saw going for it, I saw him get a couple numbers. He was having fun. I didn't want to be a bitch in front of this other person. I didn't want to let him down and lose my chance to have a wing. I didn't want to, I just felt the pressure, the social pressure to take action. So I did my first approach, and it was cringy, but I did a few, and, he gave me feedback. He gave me positive feedback. He could tell I was nervous. So he was like, encouraged me to keep going. And I didn't have any real successes that night, but the fact that I was able to finally approach was enough. The fact that even though my approaches were awkward as fuck, and I was doing mystery method, by the way. So I was like, I had a few openers, but one of them was, who lies more, men or women? Cringe ass opener, not good. But I did that opener, tried it again and again. And even though I didn't have successes, the fact that I was able to approach felt like this huge progress. It felt amazing, like this huge monkey off my back, years of watching pickup, reading the books, and finally having someone else push me to take action was what gave me enough of a, what's the word I'm looking for, is what gave me what I needed to actually do it. And so this guy, I don't know why, but he invited me to, maybe he liked my, energy of being willingness to try. Even though I was awkward, I wasn't that cool, he kept inviting me out, and I would go out with him. And then after, it was about 3 months, I finally pulled. I pulled a girl. I got laid from cold approach. She was attractive. And I was like, holy shit, even for me, even for the guy who my crush in high school said, he's just like a little boy. He's like, I don't see how anyone could be attracted to him. He's just like a little boy. He's not really a man. That guy had finally gotten laid, right? Had success from approaching. And so this really changed my belief system. And then I became addicted. I became hooked to going out every weekend, approaching. And for my first year, I was still pretty awkward. I was not good. I was still doing some pretty cringy stuff, all these routines and NLP and all that kind of stuff. And Occasionally, though, it would work. Occasionally, I would get lucky. I was making massive mistakes. I definitely could have gotten a lot better results if I had more coaching, if I had more guidance, but I had enough successes. One success every like month or 2 months was enough for me, right? That was enough for me to be like, holy shit, this works. And then, and let me see where I want to go from there. I think I'll probably divide this into a few parts of like each of the major breakthroughs or epiphanies. Um, and and so I would say, yeah, that was my first major epiphany, that even someone with crippling social anxiety, even someone who was awkward, who, people, I, I was, I was not one of the cool kids, right? I was someone who played World of Warcraft and Halo 3 like 6 hours a day. I got close to going pro in Halo 3. I was the max rating online. I was playing, that was my whole free time. That was my life. So the fact that that guy could have some success was insane to me. Like it totally, even though my results were very modest to say the least, even though I wasn't getting laid all the time, no rock star lifestyle, but even just any success was enough to keep me going. Even getting a number was extremely exciting. Even any little thing was enough. And it was crazy to me that all those years of consuming content, of making excuses, of being a total bitch, of not making a move on dates, on the few dates, the one every 6 months I would get, after all that, I was finally able to get results when I had a mentor, when I had someone help push me along the way. That was the key for me. That's what got the ball rolling, right? That's what got things started. It wasn't until then that I was able to have a breakthrough, because I would try, I would fail, and I would give up because it was so emotionally overwhelming, because I was so stressed from the fact that I failed. And I was like, this isn't for me. I would make excuses. But when I had someone mentor me, I knew that they were going to want to go out again. They were going to ask me to go out the next day and the next day. And so it just became a regular part of my life. That was the key for me. Let's see if there's anything else about that I want to say. By the way, if anyone has any questions, we're getting close to the end, but if anyone has any questions, make sure to leave those in the comment section. And so that was the first major breakthrough I had. And I'll make this a series. So in the next part, I'll make this a series. So I'll talk about each of the major turning points where my results went from one level to the next level, right? Where I went from pulling like once every couple months to where I started pulling more consistently, to where I started actually having fun going out as opposed to it being extremely stressful, to how I started pulling multiple girls per week. I'll talk about each of those things in a different video, but that's the major point of this one, is that it's when I had some guidance is when I was finally able to make some progress, finally able to get enough of a win to be able to approach was enough of a win. Just going and being able to talk to girls, that was enough of a win to get me excited to keep going out and to get more wins. And that's what it's really about, is getting those first small wins to where you sense progress and that excites you to go more. I mean, and that's true with anything, right? If you want to start a business, once you get the first sale, then you're like, holy shit, maybe this works. Or if you're going to the gym, I've been going to the gym for the last couple months, I'm starting to notice some results. And it's that first time someone makes a comment that you look better, like, oh, did you lose weight? That's what really keeps you going. And that's the point that you really need to get to. So with that said, if you're someone who is lacking guidance, lacking mentorship, you feel like it's basically you against the world, you just have to figure this out and hope you're able to make it work, and you like the idea of having someone guide you through the process, of having someone hold you accountable and push you to take enough action that you get past that point where you start getting results, where you start getting excuse me, where you start getting successes and then the momentum is able to build. If that's something you're interested in, I do have an online mentorship program, and I also offer in-person coaching, and you can click the link God damn it. and you can click the link below to learn more about those programs. All right. So if anyone has any questions, hit me up right now. I'm about to go out and film some infield in a minute, but I'll stay for 30 seconds or so to answer questions, unless I think of some other topic I want to rant about, which is entirely possible. I've been recently, my anxiety has come back to a frustrating degree, right? I haven't had real problems with anxiety or panic attacks in years. And recently they came back, and it's hard to know exactly why, but it's there. And I had one anxiety attack that just my anxiety got fairly severe again, to the point where it's interfering with my day-to-day life, to the point where I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I just want to like crawl up in a ball and avoid, right? I want to consume content. I want to lay in bed. I want to do nothing. And I've had a turning point where I've gotten that anxiety to go back down. Like the anxiety is now under control again. It's not that bad. It's still there, but it's gotten significantly less harmful to my day-to-day experience. And the things that have really helped, there's a few. One is that I've actually hired a couple online coaches for business, for accountability. And these are coaches that basically just have helped me establish good habits, that have helped me guide me and basically hold me accountable to do things that I already knew I wanted to do, things that I've had in my mind for a long time. But having a coach, having someone that I have to report to every day, has been enough to get me to stick to those things. One of them is I've quit consuming meaningless content. So watching Netflix, watching social media, Twitter, any kind of consumption, playing video games, quit all of those things. I've done that for about a week. And I've noticed that my anxiety has gone down a lot. And I think there's a few reasons. One is because when I'm not doing those negative or those things that are just consuming, those things that don't really give you any value back, the fact that I've gotten rid of those habits has gotten me to be more productive, to take more action, to do things that make me excited for the future. Because anxiety is fear about the future. Anxiety is the feeling that your future is grim. And if you're excited about the progress you're making, the successes you're having, the things that you might be about to achieve, that takes place. It replaces anxiety, right? Those two things counteract each other. And so the more that you're excited about the goals you're achieving, the progress you're making, the less room there is for anxiety. So that's been part of it. And I think the other part is an increase in mindfulness, because I'm not avoiding my negative thoughts by going into my phone. I'm not going to, and I will answer these questions in a second, by the way, guys. And I'm, what else was I going to say? And so whenever I'm feeling stressed and I want to escape into my phone, escape into a video game or YouTube or anything like that, I've taken away that option. And so I think through the problem. I think of solutions. I'm just less, what's the word I would describe it with? I'm able to process my thoughts and process my emotions as opposed to avoiding them. Because if you avoid them, they just build up more and more and more. And then you get more stress, more anxiety, things like that. But when you actually are with your thoughts and let yourself process them, they work themselves out, right? The anxiety, the stress, the negative feelings, they work themselves out as opposed to getting stuck. Anxiety and depression are largely a feeling of being stuck. So that has really helped. That has really helped reduce my anxiety. I've also been practicing meditation. I've quit drinking. I wasn't drinking every day, maybe twice a week, but when I would drink, I'd have like 4 to 6 drinks. So when I would drink, it's a good amount. But I was drinking about twice a week, but I've quit that. That has also helped. And is there anything else that's really helped with anxiety? And the other one would be no, I already said that. And the other one, which is a little bit more esoteric, is I've been doing something called Qigong. I've been looking up tutorials on YouTube, which is, it's Eastern, it's spiritual, but it's basically it's similar to yoga, but I've just found it has a profound effect. I don't know why it works. I don't necessarily believe in all the woo-woo stuff associated with it, but when I did it, I felt the first time I did it, I felt a extreme emotional release. And that wasn't even something that I expected. The guy in the video didn't say anything about that, and that's what I experienced. So that is something that's been very powerful as well. And that's really helped my anxiety reduce to a manageable level to where it's not running my life. And I hope to, keep working on that to get it to a point where it's not a problem at all. Having a bit of trouble approaching. So to do a bit by bit. Yeah. So that is the key. Are you, if you're secretly Ty Lopez, that's cool. You can take Ty Lopez. I have a special Ty Lopez boot camp for $10 million. I'll read. Fail a bunch in order to improve. I wouldn't look at it as failure, right? I would look at it as you're throwing yourself into an approach situation. So you're going out, telling yourself, I'm going to go out for at least 15 minutes to where there's girls to approach. And all I have to do is stay out for whatever amount of time. It could be 15 minutes, 30 minutes. It's kind of up to you. But I'm going to stay out and try to approach. And if I do that, that is a win in itself. And then you try to build on that with the next layer, which is just making comments as people walk by, right? So saying like, oh, I like your outfit. I like your shoes. I like your hairstyle. I like your, whatever, right? Just compliment, right? Nice shirt. Anything like that. Just give compliments to, it doesn't even have to be girls, just anyone as they walk by. And once you do this enough times, you start to see, okay, it's not that big of a deal to talk to strangers. It's not that like all these anxious thoughts in my head are not true. All these excuses in my head are not true. I'm able to disprove them. Or it's actually, I'm getting positive responses or neutral responses. Like no one's going to say, fuck you if you compliment their outfit, right? Very unlikely. Most people are either going to be like, barely notice you. And you're like, oh, that didn't matter. I'm fine. Or they're going to be grateful and be like, thank you. And either one is good, right? So you show yourself that in your mind, there's all these bad things that might happen. It feels like it's a big deal. It's called, there's a word for it in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not dramatization, it's catastrophization, I think. You make everything seem like it's going to be this huge catastrophe. And we all do it with approach anxiety. And so going one step at a time by complimenting people first is much easier. And then once you've done that, enough to where you feel like, you know what, I can actually do a real approach. Then you do an approach where you say, ask for directions, right? Would be an easy one to start with. So like, hey, do you know anywhere good to eat nearby, right? Or do you know where the X is? That would be an example. And from there, once you're able to do that, then you try to keep a conversation going. So you say, hey, do you know where there's a good coffee shop nearby? And they're like, no, sorry. Okay, be honest. I just had to say that you're very attractive and I needed some excuse to talk to you. And that was the best I could do. So that's why I'm here. Anyway, and then move on from there. And that's not the ideal approach later on, but it's a good way to baby step into it. It's a good way to build into approaching if you're someone who has approach anxiety, which is almost everyone, by the way. It's natural. It's pretty much universal. Sociopaths don't have approach anxiety. Almost everyone else does. So once you're able to do that, then you're able to do direct and then you go for numbers, right? So you just build each level, you do each level until you can get to the next level, until you build enough courage to build the next level. So always have the next level in mind. So if you're just doing approaches or you're just walking around a venue, a bar, a mall, your campus, whatever, when you're doing that, just keep in mind, all right, the next level is to give someone a compliment and then try to do that. And eventually when you are able to finally, you're like, fuck this. All right, it's not that big a deal. And then you do it. Then you do that a handful of times and you think, all right, when I'm ready, I can ask someone for directions. And then you go from there, etc. Eckhart Tolle and David Hawkins. Eckhart Tolle, I think, is great. Love both of his books. I'll probably reread them again soon. They're extremely well written and just I don't know, very poignant, very provocative, and yeah, his books are great. Eckhart Tolle is great. Nothing bad to say. David Hawkins. I've read like 60 pages of his book, and it was a little weird, but there was definitely some great stuff in there. But I'm not as familiar with him. But anyway, if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm gonna wrap up, and then tomorrow I'll do part two, which is the first breakthrough I had after I was able to actually approach. All right, good talking to you guys. Make sure to leave a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.